Olá, eu sou Alberto Dell'Isola, fundador do High Brain Institute. Todo grande hipnotista sabe que Melissa Thierse não é apenas a maior terapeuta do mundo, mas uma autora consagrada e premiada por suas obras de terapia. E ela vai estar por uma única vez em Belo Horizonte, nos dias 12 a 15 de outubro, ensinando todas as suas técnicas. Oportunidade única.
Hi. So what we're going to focus on in this program is what I consider to be the basic way to repattern any habituated pattern. When I say habituated pattern, I don't just mean smoking or biting nails or things like that. I mean habituated patterns of thought, habituated patterns of feeling, habituated patterns of behavior. This is really about rewiring your brain. That's what self-directed neuroplasticity is. It's a very long-winded way of saying you can use your conscious mind to begin to actively rewire your brain. Your brain is always wiring and rewiring itself every time you learn something new. This is just a way of being a lot more strategic with it. So some of what you're going to learn is different ways to interrupt patterns. So when I say interrupt patterns, I mean in the moment where you get triggered, and when I mean triggered, I mean you feel the craving, or you feel the impulse, or you feel the compulsive feeling that makes you do what you don't want to do. Whether it's the coworker who every time you see them or you hear their voice, you get that feeling. These are all habituated patterns because anything done with repetition creates a pattern in the brain. It creates a neural network that can become very tightly grouped. So it really becomes almost a default position in the brain. And this is the way to change it. So this program takes, as I said, a lot of the ideas from the current research in neuroscience. It is also really a way of condensing the work of Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz. He has amazing programs that he has developed through working with people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. He's got a few fantastic books you might be interested in reading. The first time I read about his work, it was in his book, The Mind and the Brain. But there's more user-friendly books. If you're interested, you can read Brain Lock or You Are Not Your Brain. His work is amazing because what it does on so many levels is it validates the work of me and my colleagues and what we've been doing with NLP, with hypnosis, with coaching the unconscious mind on many levels. We can now see through Dr. Schwartz's work what is actually happening in the brain. So let me back up a little bit and tell you a little bit about that so you have a better understanding of what you're going to learn today. Okay, so Schwartz took, as I said, a bunch of people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. And he first put them in a brain scan and had them think about their trigger or be re-triggered. And he looked at what was happening in the brain. Now, I could go into all the cool aspects of, the different areas of the brain. Let's just call it the, the uh-oh center. So the uh-oh center of the brain is that they feel something is wrong, right? So there's that part of the brain that tells them something is wrong, and then that is actually connected to the part of the brain that is connected to your gut feeling. So not only do you think something is wrong, but you feel it. And that's why obsessive-compulsive disorder is very hard to, for people to treat. So what he did was he showed the patients their brain scans. And he said, do you see this area that's overactivated in your brain? So these urges you have, whether it's to wash your hands or lock the door for the 150th time, where you really feel something is wrong, this is just your brain. It's not you, it's just your brain. It's got into this overactive pattern, and we need to break that pattern. So just by showing them that, and then he gave them a 4-step process. Now I'm not going to go too much into it except to say the gist of it is, as soon as they would start to feel their compulsive feeling, they would say to themselves, you know, okay, I'm feeling this feeling. I get it. It's not me. It's just my brain. It's just my brain doing its thing. You know, it's just my brain giving me wrong signals. And then they were to do something else. So whether that something else was exercise, listen to music, gardening, these are some of the examples his patients chose. Then from that position, kind of reassess and say, yes, gardening or listening to music is much better than washing my hands, and which, you know, unfortunately, when an obsessive-compulsive individual actually does the thing they're compelled to do, it only feels better for about a minute, and then they have to redo it. Okay, so they get that, and they knew that they were caught in this cycle. So by doing these 4 steps, they were able to segue out, and from segue out, reassess, right? Then, in about 4 to 6 weeks, I forget how much time went by, they re-examined the brain in the brain scanner, and they saw that these people had absolutely rewired that whole pattern. And what was really cool is that they kept it going. So they didn't revert back. Once they understood how they could rewire the brain, the compulsive tendencies got less and less. Now, in my work, I teach to my students and I teach to my clients a 4-step process for change. And it basically follows the structure of Dr. Schwartz's work, but my clients don't have to white-knuckle it. You see, that one of the things in Schwartz's work was that he didn't really give them the techniques that you're going to learn here. He just had them go listen to music, and that they had to do for at least 15 minutes, and some people had a hard time doing that. The techniques you're going to learn are designed to stop it. So whether it is a feeling of anxiety or anger or even depression, feeling sad, these are all habits once you've done them again and again. Or whether it's a craving to eat something you don't want to eat, to smoke something you don't want to smoke, or to do something you don't want to do. That too is something that I'm going to teach you to stop that craving, stop that urge, stop that habituated pattern. So once you do that, you're going to begin to understand that as soon as you can segue out of a craving and into a much better state, and many of the techniques you're going to learn, they access the parasympathetic nervous system, which is really just the relaxation response. So that once you can start to go from a state of craving or a state of anxiety or a state of compulsion to one of relaxation, you're starting to really branch out neurologically. It's kind of like you're stimulating the circuit that is involved in that habit, and we get the neurons stimulated, and then we introduce them to relaxation. Or we introduce them to a more open focus state, or we introduce them to laughter, depending on the technique. So my idea for this class is to really, in a very short period of time, arm you with the skills that you need in order to break any habituated pattern. And they will always follow this 4-step structure, so that I know that if we were to scan your brain and look at the neural networks that light up when you're doing that habit, whatever, once again, that habit is, and then you follow this protocol, in a few weeks, if we were to look at your brain, we would know that you were rewiring. Now, you'll know without the brain scans just by how you feel. All of a sudden, you'll find that you're just not getting triggered in those old situations, that you're just not having the cravings in the same way. So a lot of these techniques will literally take away a craving. They will thwart anger and anxiety on many levels. So then we're going to go into, excuse me, then we're going to go into how you can begin to program in what you want. So I called this program Self-Directed Neuroplasticity because, to me, that's really what we're doing when we're doing successful change. And I want you to be able to change yourself, okay? There's no side effects here except learning some techniques. So that being said, let's learn a few, okay? So we'll start with the quickies. Basically, what I want you to do is play along with me. And when I ask you to access a feeling, really do access it, because some of these techniques just seem so simple and almost silly that if you're just watching me do it, you're going to be like, what? That can't be true. But if you feel it, because I've been teaching this for many years, and I teach groups anywhere from 10 to 200, and I've never had someone not respond to these techniques. Sometimes you need to be a little more persistent, but basically within under a minute, you will stop the anxiety, you will stop the craving. So play with me here, and what I want you to do is take a moment and pause this video and find something that you can pass back and forth. You can be a water bottle, it can be a pen, it could be your keys, it could be whatever's in your pocket, or it could be a ball, it could be an orange, it could be an apple. It doesn't matter, okay? So take a moment and go get something. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment and I want you to access the thing you want to change. Now, whether it's anxiety or whether it's a craving, take a moment and really think about being in that situation. I'll give you a moment. And notice where it is in your mind from 0 to 10. Right? From 0 to 10, where is the intensity level of that craving or of that anxiety or of that fear or anger? Okay? You got it? Now follow me. So all I'm doing is passing this ball or whatever you're holding back and forth. Make sure you cross the middle of your body, and that's all we're doing. The reason this works is because anxiety and cravings are primarily on one side of the brain. It's an overactivation. By doing this, you're stimulating right brain, left brain, left brain. And by stimulating both areas of the brain and sending a lot of activity through both hemispheres, you'll find that that anxiety circuit or that craving just kind of gets neutralized. For me, this kind of feels like a neutral position. I'll be doing this and all of a sudden I'll sense when it drops. So take a moment and just check in. Notice where it is, notice how you feel. A lot of people will say they just kind of feel a little bit more balanced, but they don't feel that craving or that anxiety. If there's still a little bit left, just do it again. Once again, this can be your keys, this can be anything, as long as you're crossing the midline of the body. This is called bilateral stimulation, and it really works. I teach this to kids, so if you have kids that get a little nervous, my daughter, when she was in 4th grade, taught this to her whole class right before taking the state-mandated tests. And I still get emails from the parents thanking me many years later. So bilateral stimulation, it's an easy one. Play with it. Okay. So the next technique I want to share with you is really easy to do. And you can do it anywhere. It's one of the techniques that I tend to utilize a lot because it stops internal dialogue. And when you don't have internal dialogue, it's really hard to keep that anxiety, that craving, that anger, that frustration, whatever habit you're breaking right now, whatever habit you're addressing, it's really hard to keep the triggering process going without internal dialogue. So this technique is interesting to do, a little bit strange, but works anywhere, okay? So what this is stimulating the peripheral vision. When you slip into peripheral vision, you access, once again, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the relaxation response. And you also create a very interesting state of mind and body. So what I want you to do is I want you to keep your focus on me and keep your eyes on me, and now begin to expand your awareness. So you'll be expanding your awareness to, I guess, the edges of the screen that you're watching. Expand your visual field, your peripheral visual field, so that you become more aware of the expanding space around you. What I want you to do is to begin to become more aware of the edges of your peripheral vision. While you're still training your eyes on me, reach out peripherally, as if you could reach for the space behind you. And then bring it back into focus, and just take a moment and notice what you notice. We're going to do this again. Most people report that because their awareness is externalized, their awareness is out here, they're just not thinking any thoughts. And that's the reason why I'm teaching this. It gives you that pause. Remember, with the obsessive-compulsive patients, all they had to do was say, it's not me, it's just my brain, it's not me, it's just my brain. That was designed to give them that kind of step off, that pause, right? What we call that dissociation. But this gives you a pause and then an entry into a really nice, calm body and mind. So once again, focus on me, keeping your eyes on me. And now expand your peripheral vision. Become aware of the walls on either side, the ceiling above you, the floor below you. Really reach out as much as you can peripherally, stretching it out as if you could be aware of the space behind you. And bring it back in. Play with it. That's all I can say. This one, it's a skill, and the better at it you become, the more you're going to start to utilize it just walking down the street. You know, whenever I'm walking down the street or in the subway or wherever, and I find myself ruminating, and I just need to step off it, I will, you know, focus on the back of the person's head in front of me as I'm walking and become aware of all the space around me. It really is a wonderful way to just shift out of the craving. So if it's a craving for a cookie and you don't want to be eating cookies, if that's your thing, then the cookie becomes the focal point, and then you expand out. And you'll realize you can walk away. If it's the cigarette becomes the focal point. Got it? So some people, if they're claustrophobic, the elevator door becomes the focal point, and they shift out, and they're able to then get into the elevator and ride up. You'd be surprised how useful this is going to be for you. Okay. So we've got two. We've got bilateral stimulation. This is, you know, an excellent way if you're starting to feel anxious, starting to feel a craving, starting to feel some of that old response that you want to change, just side to side, right? Or just expand peripherally. Now let's learn another. This next one is really like a power tool for me. It's a form of EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, but it's the short and fast version. You can learn more about this from going to fastereft.com. This guy, Robert Smith, I think that's his name. He has hundreds of videos for you to follow along with online, all for free. So it really is an excellent technique. It has never, in my office, not taken a craving away. And it really is good for any emotion you want to change, any physical symptom you want to change. So let me just explain it to you.